hesitant to start because. No, definitely don't do that. Well, so that's the problem. Do I start on time? So maybe we'll give it another few minutes. Let's see if we get two more people, and then worst comes to worst, I'll just do a Hechi Kedusha. Hello, everyone. Oh, in Israel. Wait, hold on one second. We're gonna just wait a second. I know it's 5:45, but we don't have a minion yet, so we're gonna see if we can wait a few minutes to see if we get a minion, and if we don't in the next 5 minutes, then we will begin. Your mom is here, so at least she knows. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I didn't go to Kesari at all, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Very nice. Yeah. Mm, it's the best way to fly to Israel. Yeah. Uh, oh no. Right. I know. It's why you just don't ask. You just get home. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, you did the right thing for sure. Yeah. No, you did the right thing, but and yeah, we had a one of the, so Honeymoon Israel runs 6 trips, but 3 are parallel to one another. So 2 other cities were with us the whole time, and a participant from the other city had a fever, did not test positive, but it was our last day, and so all of our participants were masking and they were fine, but we told them, we're like, do not test before you get on that plane because we'd rather you get home and end up, and everybody felt fine, so but they all got home and then we had 2 test positive on Sunday. um right, right. Yeah. Oh, weird. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. 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 Wow. Um, they are. They are nice. All right. Well, we'll start. We'll see what happens, Rosemary. Worst comes to worst, you'll read out of a chumash, which I hope you don't have to do. But okay, we are going to begin on page 214 in the Lev Shalem. I am sorry. What did you say? 226 in the Seam Shalom and 558 in the larger of the Seam Shaloms. Um, okay, and welcome to those of you who are joining us on Zoom. 214 in that one. Ashrei Shevetecha, Od Yelu Chasela, Ashrei Shekachalo, Ashrei Shadonai Elohav, Tehillah LeDavid. Poteach et Yadecha, Masbilecha Charatzon. Tehillat Adonai Yedaber Pi, Vivarecho Basar Shem Kocho Le'olam Va'ed, Va'anachnu Nevarachia, Me'ata Ve'ad Olam, Hallelujah, Uva L'Tzion, Go'alev Shmashayim Kavodim Adonai V'Nizah B'Tiyamot. ואתה קדוש יושב תהילת ישראל, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוך על הארץ כבודו. מקבלים דין מדינים. ותישאני רוח ושמע אחרי קורש גדול ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומות אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ויבטחו בך יודי שמך כי לא עזבת דרשך אדוני אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. Okay, well, we still do not have 10. What do you mean? Oh. Yeah, you're talking about on campus? Yeah. Yes, it is. It is terrible. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. We are going to continue with the Torah service. And we will have Rosemary read out of a Chumash, which is lovely and also a little bit sad that we don't have a minyan to be able to do a full Torah service. But let's all right. 5:45. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. We are one short. We are glad to have you. We are still one short. No, he's the 9. Okay. So we'll read out of a chumash. We did this last week, unfortunately, but we will do it again. Oh, we have a 10th? Wow. Just in time. We have a minyan. Okay. All right. Fabulous. Okay, so we'll just do a Heichi Kedusha later just so that we can pick up some time so Ben doesn't miss out on his ability to teach. Okay, so Torah service on page 218 just shows if you wait just a second, your whole life can change. Va'ani tefilati lechadonai et ratzon Elohim berov chastecha aneni bemet ishecha. Please rise. Vayehi Saron vayomer Moshe u'Adonai vayachlim zoivecha vayanishem bepanecha mipnecha imitzion tetzei Torah u'Adonai b'Yerushalayim. Oh, it's so exciting to see Yael that I lost all my words. Sure. So you may be seated. We are in Parshat Ha'azinu. I don't know yet. And for those of you, whoever's going to do Hagbah, just get ready. For those of you who are actually in person, this is one of those pieces of Torah that also looks very beautiful. It looks like poetry. I'll try to move the computer so that people on Zoom can also see it, but it's written in two separate columns because it's supposed to be this song that Moshe sang, and so it's supposed to look poetic since it is written poetically. So if you have the chance to see it, you should. Take a look. I could go get it from the other room.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
We don't have yet, so I bring my
There's a
yet.
okay, sure. Yeah, there might be one in the. Okay, page 1185. Would someone like to press Aliyah? Don't all jump at once. Great. ותיגל לבצר מחתו למקום קרוב יחום ותתן פלגת המועצה לחנך את זרחם ממרצה מן אמר אמן הכובד וינשי כבוד לתורה יעמוד אברהם
בן זב ושומע
בן זב ופרומה לעלייה ראשון ברוש נתן תורה למועצה וקדושתו
ואתם מגיעים עליכם היום כולכם היום
ואתם מגיעים עליכם הם כולכם היום
ברוך הוא אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה
אמן. האזינו השמיים ואדברה ותשמע הארץ אמרי פי ירוק כמטר לקחי יזל קטל אמרתי כסירים עלי דשא וחרביבים עלי עשב כי שם אדוני אקרא אבו גודל לאלוהינו
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת בחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה
אמן יעמוד
ברוך בן חיים
ברוך בן חיים וחנה לעלייה שני Very good. Yeah.
Baruch Adonai Hambrach
ברוך אדוני ברוך לעולם ועד
Baruch Adonai Hambrach Le'olam Ba'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim V'natan Lanu Et Torto Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah
אמן
עצור תמים פעלו כי כל דרכיו משפט אל אמונה ואין אבל צדיק וישר הוא על אדוני תגמלו זו שיחת לו בניו מומם דורי קש ופתלתול על אדוני תגמלו זאת עם נבל ולא חכם הלא הוא אביך קונך הוא עשך ויקוננך
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Natah B'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah
אמן
משה ויהודיתינה לעלייה שלישית Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim. Venatan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
זכור ימות עולם, בינו שנות רבות, שלא אביך ויגדך, זקניך ויאמרו לך, והנחל עליון גויים, יפרידו בני אדם, יצב גבולות עמים, למספר בני ישראל. כי חלק אדוני עמו, יעקב חבל נחלתו. ימצאהו בארץ מדבר, וכתובו ירל ישימון, יסובבנו יבוננו, יצרנו כאישון אינום, כנשר יאיר כינום, על גוזליו ירחף, ופרוס כנפיו ייקחהו, יישאהו על עברתו. אדוני בדד ינחנו, ואין עמו אל נכר.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher natan lanu Torat Emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Does everybody would like to lift?
I can do it.
Okay, it's very heavy on the right hand side.
Good thing I'm right-handed.
That's true. Please rise. Vezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Eitz chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomachei ha'meushar. Eitz chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomachei ha'meushar. V'tomchei ha'meushar have the opposite problem of Rosemary. I need everything taller, not shorter. We are going to continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 222. And then, as I mentioned before, just because we had to wait a little bit for a minyan, we will do a Heichi Kedusha so that we can pick up some time for Ben to have his full time to teach. So that'll go straight into 223. I will begin aloud. We'll do the Kedusha together, which is found on page 225, and then you'll go back to page 223 and do your own whispered Amidah with all the insertions and changes for Shabbat Shuvah. יתקדע ויקדע שמי רבה בעלמא דברכותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויומכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה וברך לעולם לעולמי יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתשמע וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלש בקדושה ברכו לעילא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Ha'el HaGadol Gibor Menara Eloyon Go Melech Chasadim Tovim V'konei Yaakov V'zocher Chastei Avot U'mevi Gohel Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ava Zochreinu Lechaim Melech Hafetz B'chaim V'chotfeinu B'sefer HaChaim L'ma'anecha Elohim Chayim Melech Ozer Moshe U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Eitim Atah Rav Lehoshia Mechalkel L'chaim B'chesed Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'rofeh Cholim U'matir Asurim U'mekayem Emunato L'shenei Afam Mi chamocha Ba'al Gevurot U'mido Melech Melech Mimit U'mechayeh U'matzmiach Yeshua Mi chamocha Av harachamim Zocher Yetzurav L'chaim berachamim V'neman ata l'chayom meitim Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hameitim נגד השמכם עולם כשם שמעתי שמעתו בשמי מרום ככתוב היה נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש you've not yet finished your Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're on the top of page 230. צדקתך צדק לעולם, ותורתך האמת, וצדקתך אלוהים, עד מרום אשר עשית גדולות אלוהים מחמוך, צדקתך הרג, משפטך טעם רבה, אדום ובהמה תושיע אדוני, יתקדש ויקדש שמי רבה, ועמד דברכותי, והמליך מלכותי, וחייכון ויומכון, וחיי כל בית ישראל, ולגלה בזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, יהי שמירה וברך, לעולם לעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלש, ונקודשה ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה, ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צדהון, ובתהון לכל ישראל, קודם עוון דבי שמיה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבים שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום מרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתתחילה לצמרשת. אנחנו קוראים ומועדים, לפי מלך בכם, לכם הקדוש ברוך הוא שקש שלהם ויצאת. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך לכל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Mourner's Kaddish, page 232. יית גדל ויית קדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם לעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו. לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ברמיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen. Yasher koach to Rosemary for beautiful Torah reading, and glad you got to do it from the Torah. We'll take a few minutes for people to get some food, and then Ben will begin teaching in the next 5 to 7-ish minutes. So get some food and come back over, and we will enjoy some teaching. Then we know what time it actually ends. I can look down there. I just forgot to check. I knew what time I had to be there, but I forgot to check what time that is. Yeah. Well, no, I think it's earlier.
It's earlier, but it was 7. I think it was 7.
I kind of wanted to start at 5:45 if it doesn't interrupt.
You have a sheet for me? Older than that. I think beginning your 60s. What's the old saying? It takes me all night to be what I used to be. You know what I mean? Basically, everything's slower and you have half.
7:15. Okay.
We would want to have a half an hour. Because then we'll want people to go to bed. So by the time people probably be settled after 6:45-ish, and then as long as I start worrying at 7, that's fine. So
Okay.
just finish teaching at 6:50, and then we'll do benching. And
6:50.
Okay, so that's, well,
So you'll have
it's
like
like
20-ish minutes.
even more than that.
25 minutes. Well, if we start at 6:25,
Oh,
right?
6:25 to start teaching. Yeah, okay. Perfect.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Just, yeah, make sure that's close. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to UCLA yesterday. Yeah, well, for me, not for him. UCLA. Father, son, tournament.
His parents also got married on Shabbat Shuvah. So I made a joke that, you know, Eitan, like, there must be a lot of people who really love you that come into town to stay for fun. That's hard to say that you're going right out of town. And I said, but your parents informed me that not only have they done this to their friends and family not once, but they've done it twice for everybody, and they had to do the same thing. So it's hard.
My son played
Or not. It's hard to have everything happen.
Anyway, we're doing that.
Yeah, I just like,
That's why I exercise. It's not exercise.
Not that water really helps.
LABL wants baseball. This is the one in LA.
Well, they started after my year. They started.
I've been doing it for a long time.
yeah, Ellen and I actually were both on the same day.
There always a few years where they just fly.
Or two different places. Did you have a party at Ellen or Robert?
I have a party.
Yeah, your Robert son?
Yeah. But unfortunately, the band was busy.
My dad?
The band I wanted
Oh,
was
that's
busy.
hysterical. I didn't have a party. I just had like we had like a big lunch, and then the night before we did a thing. What do you have to think? That's why I wanted to do it by myself. I did like a big camp. I did a big camp thing the Friday night before.
Yeah. Friday night for me was like a family.
Yeah, yeah. Bobby's bar mitzvah was the same day. Remember that? Well, so at Sinai they're allowed to play music. So we did have a band, just at the luncheon, not at. I mean, at the dinner, not at the. Not very yeah. But I just wasn't. I was just telling Alan like I just wasn't a big party kid. Like it just wasn't. It wasn't that exciting.
But do you know what?
Oh, it's the, here, I'll walk with you so that you can start healing.
Entire shore that you
Right, right. Yeah.
I've done 3 bar mitzvahs.
So it's putting
You can do that?
Yeah, you open it up and then just everybody in your group stand it, and then until it's ready, and then you write it off.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's one of
That's
the.
good to know.
But I'm trying to do it.
My guess is that mine will be very large and open to everybody.
Elsa's bar mitzvah is in 3 years.
So what?
Elsa's bar mitzvah is in 3
Right,
years.
right, yeah.
And so he has 2, Michelle, my wife, and sister has 2 kids the same age that we want to come all together.
Oh.
Because it's basically the same family.
Yeah, great idea.
Because my family's little, Jeff's family's little, minor family.
Yeah, yeah.
So we talked about why I want to be married, why he wants to be here. I said, I don't really care, but here they want you like I am.
Right, right.
I said, here they want you to be me. So I said, but it makes no sense.
Why don't you just do it in a neutral place? Like,
We
why
thought
don't you
about
like
it. We thought about it. We thought about it too. But we're going to try to do it all together because otherwise it's the same family out.
Right. Right, right. Yeah. My cousin and I had the same problem. Her bat mitzvah was in June and mine was in March.
Yeah. It's the same family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We had to go to Texas. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna get started. So is this the first? Oh no, Cheva, I guess, taught also. So this is one of the first times that we've had our interns teaching. For many of you, you know that our interns are a major part of our just system in general. Yeah, also happens to be an intern, and Cheva, who's taught here in the past. And so they, for now, because it's the beginning of their year, the clergy, will be here with them and help support them and help with the davening and give them feedback on their teaching, etc. Not in front of all of you, but in general. Yeah, and then we abandon you. No, exactly. Well, that's true. Well, that was only last year. This year they are none of them are going off to Israel next year. So they have the potential, if they would like it, to stick around for another year. But yes, last year was a little bit of an anomaly. Coming out of a pandemic, everything was an anomaly. So last year was just a fluke. But this will be the first time that Ben teaches in this space. So I hope that that we'll all give him the support, and also anytime he asks for people to share or to read something, that you'll raise your hand and you'll do that and you'll participate. But it's also important for our interns to feel like you are engaging them and giving them feedback and telling them the things that you really liked about what they're teaching, and hopefully they only grow from that experience. So I invite you to do that with all of them. This just happens to be the first time then I'm here when one of our interns this year is teaching. So Yasher Koach in advance. And if anybody wants to speak, just hand them a microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So hello everyone. Um, so can we pass around the source sheets? They're kind of in the middle of the tables. This week is Shabbos Shuvah. We're in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of look into this period, and also I'm doing the Taste of Torah next week, and I didn't want to teach Hazinu twice. I'll write the Taste of Torah about Hazinu, and we'll do some Mishnah learning. So what you're passing around, and the source sheet that was sent out in the bulletin yesterday, is a couple of Mishnayot from Mishnah Rosh Hashanah. We're shortly after Rosh Hashanah, and the chapter that we're catching the end of is talking about how do we actually welcome in the new month? How does that happen? So today we have a calendar, it's set, but 2000-ish years ago, there was actually a process of witnessing the new moon, which is the lack of a moon, and saying this is the day that that the month starts, and we go from there. And because Rosh Hashanah is also Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, that's one of the reasons why it ends up in this portion of the Mishnah. So we're catching the tail end of a conversation in the Mishnah about what's going on with that. And this is pre-clock. Yeah, they had sundials back then, but that's not so helpful with month to month. So if I could get a volunteer to read this first chunk, I know it's a decent amount. We're going to kind of run through the first two parts of this, the first Mishnah and a half of this, because it's really the end that I think talks about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur more in context and out of the context of just how does a new month happen. Yeah.
And when anybody speaks, just say your name so that Ben can start to get to know who you are.
Thank you.
So you are. Who are you?
I am Alan.
Okay, Brandon.
Rabbi Gamliel had a diagram of the different forms of the moon drawn on a tablet that hung on the wall of his attic, which he would show to the laymen who came to testify about the new moon, but were unable to describe adequately what they had seen. And he would say to them, "Did you see a form like this or like this?" There was an incident in which two witnesses came to testify about the new moon, and they said, "We saw the waning moon in the morning in the east, and that same day we saw the new moon in the evening in the west." Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, "They are false witnesses, as it is impossible to see the new moon so soon after the last sighting of the waning moon. However, When they arrived in Yavne, Rabban Gamliel accepted them as witnesses without concern. And there was another incident in which two witnesses came and said, "We saw the new moon at its anticipated time, that is, on the night of the 30th day of the previous month. However, on the following night, that is, the start of the 31st, which is often the determinant of a full 30-day month, it was not seen. And nevertheless, Rabban Gamliel accepted their testimony and established the new moon on the 30th day. Rabbi Dosa ben Horkinus disagreed and said, "They are false witnesses. How can witnesses testify that a woman gave birth and the next day her belly is between her teeth? That is, she is obviously still pregnant. If the new moon was already visible at its anticipated time, how could it not be seen a day later?" Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, "I see the logic of your statements. The new moon must be established a day later." What's going on here?
Thank you. So, yeah, what is going on here? I'm going to pass around this and I'll show it here first. This is a kid's Mishnah from Israel that's illustrated, and there's a nice little illustration here of the diagram that would be shown, because presumably not everyone knows all the different phases of the moon. I certainly didn't the first time I studied this, and so it's really helpful to be able to point them out. So I'll just pass that around.
Can you make it loud, make a different mic?
Or
speak closer to the mic. Yeah.
We can't hear them. We can't hear you.
Two Jews, three opinions.
We can't hear you.
Everybody's right.
Muted you.
No, it didn't.
It says the host muted you.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a very colorful metaphor that
Oh,
does not necessarily work, but the idea is essentially, the idea behind the pregnancy metaphor is, how can you say something has happened and then have a clear sign that it didn't happen? Like, you can't have these two things happening in the same way that you can't have the new moon so soon after the last waning moon. Great. So basically, we've got a couple of Jews, different opinions. It's important to note Rabban Gamliel is head honcho rabbi, so his word is going to be more important for the Jewish community as a whole. He probably hasn't heard necessarily what happened with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, we're not going to accept these witnesses. But at the same point, once he's said something, that's generally what the Jewish community is going to go with. And so right now we have Rabbi Yehoshua who's saying Rabbi Yochanan, or these witnesses can't be accepted. And this is after, Rabban Gamliel has said, I'm going to accept these witnesses. So with that in mind, can I get someone to move on to the next half of a Mishnah?
Upon hearing that Rabbi Yehoshua had challenged his ruling, Rabbi Gamliel sent a message to him. "I decree against you that you must appear before me with your staff and with your money on the day on which Yom Kippur occurs according to your calculation. According to my calculation, that day is the 11th of Tishrei, the day after Yom Kippur." Rabbi Akiva went and found Rabbi Yehoshua distressed that the head of the great Sanhedrin was forcing him to desecrate the day that he maintained was Yom Kippur. In an attempt to console him, Rabbi Akiva said to Rabbi Yehoshua, "I can learn from a verse that everything that Rabbi Gamliel did in sanctifying the month is done, i.e., it is valid. As it is stated, these are the appointed seasons of the Lord, sacred convocations which you shall proclaim in their season." This verse indicates that whenever you have proclaimed them at their proper time, or whenever you have declared them not at their proper time, I have only these festivals as established by the representatives of the Jewish people. Rabbi Yehoshua then came to Rabbi Dosa ben Horkinas, who said to him, "If we come to debate and question the rulings of the court of Rabban Gamliel, we must debate and question the rulings of every court that has stood from the day of Moses until now, as it is stated, Then Moses went up, and Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. But why were the names of these 70 elders not specified? Rather, this comes to teach that every set of 3 judges that stands as a court over the Jewish people has the same status as the court of Moses. Since it is not revealed who sat on that court, apparently it is enough that they were official judges in a Jewish court.
Great, thank you. So what we've just kind of read through another chunk. I just want to process it before we actually get into it. What was Rabbi Yoshua asked to do, and what are the stakes involved in what he was asked to do? Or asked is kind of a nice way of putting it. What was he demanded that he do? Accept the decision of Rabban Gamliel, which is specifically to do what?
Well, it was, I mean, yeah, but it was done in a pretty humiliating way. It was like, not only are you going to say that you're wrong, but you're going to like very publicly show that you're wrong, because if what you're going to do is like, if you were right, would be a terrible, terrible thing.
So he's being asked to show up on the day that he thinks is Yom Kippur with money, with other stuff. It is potentially meant to throw a little bit of humility towards, or force humility upon him. It's also intended to, what does showing up with money mean on Yom Kippur in this case?
You're so sure about what your position that you're willing to potentially desecrate the floor by being wrong.
Great, he's being asked to transact with money in a way that would be a desecration of Yom Kippur. He's being told, I am so certain that you're wrong that I'm going to make you do something that I would not feel comfortable with a Jew doing on Yom Kippur. That's what Rabban Gamliel is essentially forcing him to do. So,
greater principle that I think is being established here is you can't build a society if you have everybody with their own opinions. At some point, we have to listen to the rulings.
I'm going to.
And that's why, look, this gets to the broader issue of, that you can't establish a community, a society, a government, an army, or whatever, unless you have some definitive, laws. And what he's really saying here, we can't debate. We can't have all these different rules. At some point, we have to agree that this is the particular date, or we can't have the holiday.
Great. I want you to hold on to that thought for a little bit. We'll kind of circle back there in a minute, but the idea is essentially, for those who may not have been able to hear on Zoom or podcast or whatever, the idea is that we can't have 2 Yom Kippurs. There needs to be one for the Jewish community. We can't, if we start factioning off into one group that does Yom Kippur on this day and another that does it on a different day, then we're going to start not being one community. So what is the advice? He goes to 2 of his colleagues and they give him slightly different takes, but similar advice. What's the advice that he's given?
Follow it, right? Don't contest.
Follow it, don't contest. And anything else others want to add? I mean, that's the basis of it. They have 2 different reasons behind it. One of them is that we can only have one Yom Kippur, essentially. That's kind of what Rabbi Akiva is coming with. And Rabbi Dosa says we can't challenge the courts. We need to have courts that have final opinions at a certain point. Why not 3 witnesses instead of 2? Previously, we've set up that there need to be 2 witnesses. The idea behind it is essentially one person may not be certain, but 2 witnesses, we can generally trust that there's value in getting the same testimony from multiple people. It's the same amount of testimony that we need for anything else in Jewish law. Because why not 3 after the fact to look at the sky? Because it depends on the evening sky, so the testimony is happening after what needed to be witnessed already happened. So they can't go back and look at the sky. It's already going to be different by that night. But thank you, good question. So I guess the question is, if you're put in a situation where you're being told to compromise your values or listen to the people you trust, what would you do?
Is it a matter of values, really? Isn't it just a matter of making a decision about what day it is? I mean, it's not really values. I mean, the values are the same. We start Yom Kippur on its proper date in reference to the first day of Tishrei.
Right.
Those are
So
the
values may not
Those
have been put exactly the right way, but if you're being told do something that you think is incorrect or listen to the people that you trust, like the option one is do what you think is correct, but don't listen to the people you trust. Option two is listen to the people you trust, but do something that you think is potentially a transgression of the holiest day in Judaism.
I don't think that may be the right analysis of it. I think Brandt's determination of this is right, because once it's the Jewish people who have the power to declare when it is. It's not like Shabbat, which is determined from by God. This is the holidays are observed when the people declare it to be the holiday. And once the people declare it to be the holiday, right or wrong, that's the law. That's what's accepted. So you have to follow that commandment. And I think there's another there's this part of this is to say that, well, that being called to do this and maybe some sort of violation from his own standpoint, but it's not, because that one person doesn't have the power to determine. And once it's set, I think there's an issue about this, about blowing the shofar, something about that, somewhere about whatever, about whether we're going to blow it or not blow it. It says, hey, look, it's already been determined. It doesn't matter. This is the day. This is what you've got to follow. End of discussion. Because otherwise, as one of the people said here, that you'd have to be questioning decisions all the way back if you didn't accept the word of a valid court that was taking place.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
I think maybe this is coming up for me in the position of an intern, but I really appreciate what's sticking out to me looking at it now is that Rabbi Yehoshua felt like he was being asked to do something from someone that is in a position that he trusts, and but being asked to do something that he did think was incorrect, as you said, and before he acts, whether he goes to them or they come to him, he's in conversation with Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Dosa ben Harkanas to determine what do I do. So he doesn't just act one way or the other. I'm correct and I'm going to do what I want to do, or okay, I'll just give up what I think. But first he consults two people. And I also was thinking about the two witnesses that we were talking about before in terms of seeing the moon, and then that consulting two people can be helpful when you're in this position. So I think that's what's popping out at me, is that finding people to mentor you or such.
Great. So we've got a couple of opinions about what to do in this case. Let's actually see what happened. So can I get a volunteer to read the end of this?
When Rabbi Yehoshua heard that Rabbi Dosa ben Harkanus maintained that they must submit to Rabban Gamliel's decision, he took his staff and his money in his hand, and he went to Yavne to Rabban Gamliel on the day on which Yom Kippur occurred according to his own calculation. Upon seeing him, Rabban Gamliel stood up and kissed him on his head. He said to him, "Come in peace, my teacher and my student. You are my teacher in wisdom, as Rabbi Yehoshua was wiser than anyone else in his generation, and you are my student, as you accepted my statement despite your disagreement."
Great. So I know I've got a couple of questions here that I actually think I'm not going to ask one of them to kind of keep us on track. But what just happened, essentially? Law and order? I mean,
Looks like he agreed.
he agreed.
He agreed because he showed up with the money. He did what he was asked to do in order to preserve what I asked. Therefore, you understand that there's one law for all of us.
Great. So he accepts the fact that there needs to be one understanding of when Yom Kippur is, and he's accepted as his student for accepting the opinion. And
Yeah.
what do you make of the wisdom piece, Grant?
The wisdom piece?
Yeah. Where does that come from? Or do you think that that's unrelated? Like, the unbolded part of the translation is coming from commentaries. It's not a direct translation. So it's one rabbinic opinion. It may be multiple rabbinic opinions. I haven't gone through all of them, but it's not, doesn't need to be the only opinion. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the reference to wisdom is that it's wise to recognize that you have to have one authority that makes one establishment, and that's how we build a people, and that's how we build a society. So even though you disagree, you show your wisdom by ultimately doing what I asked and showing up. And that's why he hugged him and kissed him and all that kind of stuff, because he recognized just even though he had this disagreement, he did what he was told. And I mean, I think, this last paragraph basically says it all, what we were all talking about, that ultimately to build a society or to build a government, you got to have one ultimate, judicial court that makes ruling. And just take our own society, for example. There's a lot of people calling into question whether the U.S. Supreme Court, people are going to abide by its rulings. And that's a dangerous place for this country because they have no enforcement mechanism. They have no way to make sure that their laws are carried out, and that people need to trust in the court system and to follow the laws. And we are a society of laws, just like these people are. And to some, we're entering uncharted waters. And so we're also going to watch how that plays out. So
Yeah.
With a less political statement, though I happen to agree with you, Brent. I see this similar to what Yael was talking about. Many of you know that I'm the associate rabbi, which means that I work with a senior rabbi, and I part of what I do in my job is sit with someone who I revere and who I respect and who I love and who I look up to and who mentors me. And that doesn't always mean that we agree, right? but that does mean that in the moments that we disagree, that I can still support him and still outwardly be a united front. And I think that we learn something from each other in that, because there are moments in which I'm sure he does not agree with me and chooses to be a united front, and support me on the outset. And that's what I think is happening at the end here, where Rabban Gamliel kisses him on his head and says, "Come in peace, my teacher and my student," because he recognizes that this wasn't easy. He recognizes that this wasn't what he would have chosen. And yet, because he was willing to do it, he is now someone to look up to as a teacher, and also someone to learn from. That if I'm ever in this situation in which I don't agree with someone, maybe I should take a step back and wonder if that person is deciding something that, even if I don't agree with it, they have reasons for their decision. And so because I love them and I respect them, I go along with them and support them. And so I actually see this as a very intimate, very sweet moment, that I hope that if people work with anybody who is a partner to them, that we're able to have those kinds of relationships, because I think it's a very beautiful way of thinking about partnership as not always equal, but always supportive.
Great.
Student, it's just it shows that if you put the ego aside, everything will be fine. I think the main subject here for me is the ego, because you want to say I'm right and you say I'm right, but if you can say nicely, both persons are respected.
Great. So with that in mind, what is that? This is about Yom Kippur in Mishnah Rosh Hashanah. It's not here. The story could be placed in a lot of different places, as any story in the Talmud and Mishnah, whatever, can be. And I think it's not an accident that it's here, in part because I think it teaches us something about forgiveness, apologies, looking back on our past year. Anyone want to care to, I guess, read my mind? I don't know. But like, what does it teach us about apologies?
About what?
Apologies. No one's apologizing, but I think it is teaching us something, and both you and Rosemary were getting at it a little bit.
Isn't there a whole concept of arguments for heaven's sake and arguments that are not for heaven's sake? In other words, there are arguments where you're of pure heart, that you actually believe that whether you're Rabbi Gamliel or whatever, that you're making an argument that you believe is right, and that those arguments, and that's probably why there's not an apology here. It's not something to apologize for. We're not a people, and these are not people without arguments, but they're arguments that are pure of heart, and then there are arguments just for argument's sake to be contrary. And I think there's a distinction in Judaism about this. I mean, I'm sure I learned it at this synagogue, but I'm just saying that we do allow for argument for purity of heart when you have a decent argument, and that's what this is. It's not an ego argument. It's an argument, as Rosemary said. It's not the ego. It's an argument for heaven that's seen as righteous under heaven, because you're arguing from your purity of heart, as opposed to just to be a contrarian.
Great. Last comment, and then.
Okay, I just wanted to add one thing, and it follows up regarding what Rabbi Schatz had said. And it's ultimately here that you can have two rabbis who are arguing and can disagree. But here, Rabbi Klickfeld is the Mora Da'atra. It's what his word is going to be binding. And you may have all sorts of reasons to think that, well, I think you could do it this way. And that ties in with another thing we learned here, that Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim, that these and these are the words of a living God, that either approach could be done. But sometimes the line concludes, after the majority you must incline. Here in the synagogue, the majority is whatever the Mora Da'atra says.
Great. So I think that's a good way of putting it, Brant, that there are arguments that are for heaven's sake, and there are arguments that are not, and we need to know when we're involved in an argument that's not, and not drag it out forever, and not hold on to that argument forever. What I got out of it, which is not far off of what you were getting out of it, was that there are things that we can hold on to from the past year that can really bug us, and they're minor things, and we need to think about it as we're going into Yom Kippur, that maybe it's time to let those things be. Maybe it's time to not expect an apology for certain things. This isn't everything. There are things that need to be forgiven, or that need to be apologized for. But there are little things that we can hold on to that we need to leave behind if we're going to move ahead into Yom Kippur and what follows. So thank you all very much. And with that in mind, we'll bench, and then. שיבת ציון היינו כחוני, אז ימלא אצחוק פינו ולשוננו רינה. אז יאמרו הגויים הגדיל אדוני יעשותי מלך Yigdil Adonai Lasotimanu Hainu Semechim Shuva Adonai Et Shivitenu Kapikin Banegel Hazorim Bedima Berina Yiksoru Halachelechu Vachonos Meshech Hazara Bo Yavo Verina No Se Alumota. Yehi Shem Adonai Merach Miatav Yad Olam.
Adonai merach mi'atav yad. Mehi Shem Adonai merach mi'atav yad olam. Bershut chavrai nevarach she'achanu mishalo. Oh, sorry. Do everybody, sorry. Baruch Eloheinu she'achanu mishalo tevah chayinu. Baruch atah Adonai. Aloud, that's why I don't know what we do. Azan et ha'olam kulo b'tuvo b'chein b'chesed u'vrachamim. Unoten lechem l'chol basar ki le'olam chasto. U'ktuvo hagadol tamid lo chasar lanu ve'al yasar lanu ma'azon le'olam va'ed ba'avur shemo hagadol. Ki u'el farnes lakol. Umetiv lakol umechin ma'azon lechol briotav asher bara. Baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol. Baruch atah Adonai al haaretz v'hamazon. Baruch atah Adonai bo'oneh v'rachama v'Yerushalayim. Amen.
We will begin Mariv. On page 264. And just as a heads up, there are certain things we do not do during the Aseret Yemei Tshuva. So if I don't do something, it is intentional. It is not a mistake. We don't go back, for example, and do Uvalat Zion. So just as a heads up there. If you are able to do so, please rise. Do we still have a minion? Yeah, okay, great. I just wasn't sure if people left. Okay. Yeah, Yeshar Koach Ben. Beautiful teaching. Vehu rachum yechaper avam velo yashchit vehi bala shiva povele kochamato Adonai Hoshia hamelech yanenu veyom korenu Baruchu et Adonai hamvorach Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'Yom Avir yom umevi laila mavdil ben yom uvein laila Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamidim l'chaleinu le'olam va'ed baruch ata Adonai hamari v'aravim ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavdat Torah mitzvot chukim mishpatim ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, ואמונה כל זאת קיים עלינו, כי אדוני אלוהינו זאת אנחנו ישמעו. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה בני ישראל לכהנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל. משכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והמדינה מלכנו לחיים ופרסנו צוקה שלמך ותקננו ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן ברוך הנמצא שכן שלהם הללויה כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולם לעד תמלוך בכבוד כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם לעולמי יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. The Whispered Amidah, page 270. you've not yet finished your private Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're on page 280 for Kaddish Shalem. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בהמה דברך ירתה וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וימכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה וזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה וברך, לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה ברכו, לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירנה בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צאתהון ובתהון דכל ישראל, קודמה והון דבי שמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגוי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל. שכינת זו ושכינת זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו, ליראה בתפארת עוזך, והעביר גילולי מן הארץ, והאלילים כרותי כרתום, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי, וכל בני בשר יקראו בשמך, להפנות אליך כל ראשי הארץ, יכירו וידעו כל יושבי תבל, כי לך תקרא כל ברך תשבע כל לשון, לפניך אדוני אלוהינו יכרו ויפולו, ולכבוד שמך יכריתנו, ויקבלו כולם את עול מלכותך, ותמלוך עליהם מהרה לעולם ועד, כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולם לעד, תמלוך בכבוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. We'll turn back to page 59 for the psalm for this season. לדוד אדוני יוריב אישי ממיר, אדוני מעוז חי ממיר, חד בקרוב. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני, אותה אבקש. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני, אותה אבקש. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו, לחזות בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו. כי יצפנני בסוכה ביום רע, יצטרני בשדה. לולהם ענתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קבל אדוני חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקבל אדוני. Mourner's Kaddish, page what? Oh, okay, or that. 282. I was going to take you to 121, but 282. Thank you. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute b'chayechon u'biyomechon u'bchaye dechol beit Israel ba'agala u'bizman kari ve'imru amen yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam lomei amaya yit barach ve'yishtabach ve'yit pa'ar ve'yit ramam ve'yit naseh V'yit hadar, v'yit ale, v'yit halal, shemei dekudisha brechu. Le'ela, le'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Israel v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imru amen. As I'm just waiting about a minute and 30 seconds until we can do Havdalah. I just want to say that those of you who receive our emails probably saw that we have 2 Shivas in the next few days before Yom Kippur, tomorrow and Monday and Tuesday morning as well at Sandra Lepson's home. And then there was 1 Shiva on, is it Monday night? It's Sunday night? For Leonard's brother? Okay. Check your email. I don't want anybody to get the wrong information, but there is Shiva for Sandra Lepson's father and Shiva for Leonard's brother. No, for Leonard Garber, for Ed Garber's brother, sorry, for Leonard Garber. And there was just one of those, and Sandra is sitting evening and morning. So please, if you can, go to Shiva, but also there will be Daily Minyan. So if you are closer to Daily Minyan or that's your usual spot, we will also need a minyan in that place. So we'll need 3 different minyanim happening at a time where people are not as excited to go to shul because there's so much shul coming up. So please make an effort to go. And Yasher Koach to Ben again and to Rosemary again. Next week, same place, same time, same stuff. Actually, not same time, but you know what I mean. Saturday afternoon will be happening. Just pay attention also to the Mincha and Mariv times for Sukkot because they are not the same as Shabbat. We give 90 minutes for Mincha Mariv so that we can do some teaching, but Mincha and Mariv for Sukkot, which will be happening as part of Daily Minyan, is at a different times. So please check out those times so that you can be there and help us make a minyan. And we will turn off the lights and everything else. I was holding the Kiddush. Yanai na nai 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 yanai na nai nai yanai yanai na nai 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 yanai yai nai 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 yai na nai yana nai 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 yai na nai yana nai nai yana nai yai na nai yana nai 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 yai na nai yana na na nai nai hine el yeshuati eftach melo efchad ki ozi vezimrat ya Adonai vayehi li shua ushaftem mayim besason mimanei ha-yeshua l'Adonai ha-yeshua alamcha virchatecha sela Adonai tzevaot Miskavanu Elohei Yaakov Selah Adonai Tzevaot Ashrei Adam Boteach Bach Adonai Hoshia Hamelech Ya'anenu V'yom Koreinu LaYehudim Hayta Orah Vesimcha vesason vikar kenti elanu kose Yeshuot esa uveshem Adonai ekra yainanai yananai nai yainanai yananai nai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei minei vesamim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei meorei ha'esh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael le'amim ben yom hashvi le'sheshet yamei hamatzeh Baruch atah Adonai Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Chatoteinu imchom Zareinu v'chasveinu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kachochav b'layla Zareinu v'chasveinu v'kacho v'kachochavim b'layla Shavua tov, Shavua
What's her name? Marianne? What are you talking about? During services, I couldn't hear.
Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimera v'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David. Shavua Tov, Gemar Chatima Tova, and we'll see you on Tuesday night. If not before.